Hello, we are continuing Quality Engineering Day 2023 that is conducted by global testing and pro-quality communities. So thank you for staying with us, and we are proceeding to the next talk. Our next speaker is Oleksandr Halichenko, solution architect with topic Qava JS, new model framework for test automation in JS. So don't forget to raise your questions in the chat. We will discuss the most interesting ones at the end of the talk. And make a note that the session is being recorded, and the recording will be available in a week after the session. So, hi, Alexander. Path.
Yeah, hi, Eugene. Yes, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen, and today we're going to talk about a new test automation framework called Qava JS. So, but let's start a couple words about myself. So my name is Oleksandr. I'm solution architect in test automation in EPAM systems. Work for last 6 years for EPAM, and in general has 9 years in testing experience. And I'm maintainer of Qava JS project. So, and what is Qava JS itself? Qava JS is open source modular JavaScript solution based on Qava JS. And out of the box, it provides modules to perform different types of testing, different types of application like web UIs, web APIs, mobile web and native application, interact with databases, file system, and so on. It provides easy to understand syntax to work with step definition, defining page object and test data, which in turn allows to involve non-automation engineers to test automation processes due to such like low-code approach. And actually, due to a simple and quick start, it's possible to start test automation just immediately and speed up test development using some of our pre-built components. And from technical perspective, it works in JavaScript and supports CommonJS ECMAScript modules and out-of-the-box support TypeScript. And it can be easily extended with some custom steps, reporters, plugins to customize to your project needs. And as it modular framework, you can see a list of modules that currently supported by Qava JS project. So basically, all the modules can be divided into 4 kinds. First kind is core modules that actually implements most basic functionalities of Qava JS, like working with page object, working with test data, command line interface, validation, that can be used by, for example, steps modules, which step module implements a collection of step definitions that can be used in gherkin scenarios. Another kind of modules is reporters that actually provide you a way to um, uh, provide a way to deliver your test results. For example, generate some uh, results files, report files, integrate with report portal or test rail, and other. And the last kind of module is plugins. Plugins actually it's a modules that allows you to change the behavior of Cucumber JS. For example, a plugin called template that allow us to create step definition using gherkin language, or soft assertions that allow us to change behavior of Cucumber JS to enable capability not to stop test execution in case of any fails, but provide multiple assertion in one test case. Let's move to features that Qava JS supports. So the first and most important feature is readable test cases. So as I mentioned, Qava JS uses gherkin to create test cases, and that allow us to use actually all the features of gherkin, like scenario outline, background, text, and so on. And besides that, Qava JS provide more than 100 built-in steps that represent some simple and atomic actions to interact with elements, with a browser, with file system, and so on. As you can see an example, we performing some action with UI, like I type something to something, I click something, I expect that some element, text of some element to be equal to something. And as you can see, even page object presented in form of some plain English queries like toolbar, arrow, search input. And it also one of the features of Qava JS, it's page object resolver. So in the left side of slide, you can see an example of a Qava JS page object. So Qava JS page object presented in form of such hierarchy. So starting from root element up, and this app can consist of different um, um, components, and each component can describe like whole page or some page fragment, and can consist of other components or elements or collections. So collection, it's a number of elements under the same selector. And such hierarchy allow us to use actually element queries, how we call it in Qava. So for example, if we're gonna to mm, get the title element, we can access it from gherkin in a form of like a query Wikipedia article, arrow, title. So, and the same for collection. But for collection, it's also possible to interact with some certain element in collection. For example, we can access first element in references collection using such notation, #1 of references. Or we can use inner text of elements in collection to find the necessary element. For example, by inner text, by some exact text, and by regular expression, as you can see in examples. And of course, as a page object presented in form of JavaScript classes, it can be defined in different files, so can be easily supported. Another important feature is memory. So memory, it's a module that give us possibility to work with test data. Test data, I mean values that you prepared before the test and stored somewhere, and values that you gathered during the test execution. For example, and if you can see in line 3, so I save text file content as a file, and then I can work with this file, store it in memory value, for example, to perform some um, validation, like to contain some substrings and so on. And it's not all. So with memory, you could uh, use, for example, string interpolation. As you can see in line 2 and 3, I have memory value called download folder. So, and using this value, I generate a whole path to some file that I want to read, and then save content of this file. In case if your memory value is some JavaScript object, for example, we get it from some API response, it's possible to traverse through the hierarchy of this element using JavaScript notation like dot or square brackets to get some elements from an array. As an example, I have value and I want to read property prop and I want to read R property of prop, and then I can get the first element in this array. And even if your memory value is reference to the function, it is possible to call it from gherkin test case. It actually give it possible to make it possible to dynamically generate some data based on other memory values, based on some I know JavaScript context or so on. So the best example is like testing of footer in your application. So I saw it too many times that footer test stopped working after Christmas holidays due to changed year in copyright. So this executing the function, it's a good way to fix it. And last but not least feature is templates. So basically, it's a way to define step definition in Gherkin language. As you can see an example, I have step definition called I login as admin with admin password, but in reality, it's not a Cucumber JS step definition. It's a Gherkin scenario, as you can see an example below. So it's a scenario called template. And as you can see, it's also possible to provide even parameters to this template and execute some other Qava JS steps or even other templates. In a newer version of template, it's also possible to pass like key value parameters in forms of Gherkin data tables and provide multi-line parameters and so on. So templates, it's a great way to define some complex action, complex and specific to your project. So using built-in step definition. Let's move to web testing. Let's move to testing types that supported by Qava JS. And the first one and most important is web testing. In Qava JS, web testing supported by WebDriver.io and Playwright drivers. So both of these binding implements basically the same number of step definition, and it can be even replaced if you want to if you decide to move from WebDriver to Playwright, you just need to change one import. Both of them implements around 100 predefined steps. It different actions, interaction with element, with browser, so on. Validation, awaits, some mocks, and JS executors. All steps supports page object approach I showed in the previous slide and can work with memory, also shown in previous slide, and even together. So you can use string interpolation to prepare mm, some element query to get some elements. Another type of testing types that supported its mobile testing. It basically supported by same binding as web testing. It's WebDriver IO. As WebDriver IO can work with Appium, so Qava JS, it also can work with Appium. So it out of the box supports web and native application on Android, iOS, and other platforms that can work with Appium. Supports cloud providers like BrowserStack, like South Labs, MobiTrue, and so on. And again, you can define page object in the hierarchy way I shown, but you just need to use mobile specific selectors. And here is a slide for API testing. It also supported by Qava JS. So API testing library built on top of Node Fetch library. And we're gonna to replace it in future with native Node Fetch, which is presented by Node.js 17.5. And it provides steps to support all necessary actions that you need to perform to work with API, like constructing reports, adding headers, body, cookies, whatever, sending this request, getting the response, and handling the response. As you can see in this example, I send GET request to some endpoint and say response as response memory value. Then I can work with this response, for example, to check the status code, then check payload, that payload contains some properties, and then check if these properties equals to some certain desired values. And here is pivot table of all capabilities that's supported by Qava JS. Besides three already shown, web UI, mobile, and API testing, Qava JS also supports desktop UI testing, as Appium supports some desktop bindings like WPF, and also possible to work with Electron application using WebDriver IO or Playwright if we have access to DevTools debugger of Electron application. Also, we support accessibility testing. So accessibility module powered by X library. So X out of the box provide a very nice set of accessibility checks, different rule sets. So, and you can use it both with WebDriver IO and with Playwright. It also Qava can also work with screenshot comparison testing. So we have a corresponding model built on top of pixdiff library. So you can take screenshot, save it to memory, and then um, compare with some other screenshot in a memory. For example, read from file system. And pixdiff will provide your difference and attach this difference to report. For report, I already mentioned that we support integration with report portal and test trail, can generate XUnit and HTML report, and can post results to console. Basically, Qava JS supports everything that's supported by Cucumber JS, all reporters, all integrations. And for business layer, user can define page object, can define test data in form of memory, can define some complex step definition as templates, and still it's possible to define custom step definition and use all benefits of Qava JS, like page object resolver, memory resolver, and another. And here is 4 values of Qava JS. So Qava JS is really quick start. So we can start test automation really in minutes using wizard that you just select the modules you want to install, and Qava JS can generate your scaffold project, and you can start test automation. So it's modular. So you can choose only modules you need to solve your current problems, can install additional problems, all these can install additional modules. And of course, these modules supported separately. So adding new features, updating, bug fixing, so on. Qava JS is versatile. So it's possible to combine in the same framework different testing types or testing different application. But all of these will be in the same style using the same step definition. And Qava JS is user friendly, so you just only need to know gherkin to start test automation in Qava JS. So we have a lot of well-documented step definitions, so you can plug into your project and start using. And here you can see the roadmap of Qava JS project. So top priority for now is development of VS Code extension. So it's already in progress. We have some preliminary builds that allow us to use templates, autocomplete templates, autocomplete page object, autocomplete memory values. We also going to implement a couple of new reporters, like Messenger ones, Teams and Slack, and Jira integration, like X-Ray plugin and Zephyr reporter. Implement email steps to enable email delivery testing to validate if emails are correct and deliver it to mailbox. And continue work with relational DB model. It's already in progress. And we have 2 bindings for MySQL and Postgres, but we want to cover more different bindings. And here is a couple of useful links. It's our GitHub project. So github.com/qavajs. It's our doc site where you can find manuals, guides how to start Qava JS and documentation for step definitions that's used in Qava JS. And in PM search for Qava JS, it's a search, not a single module, because currently in Qava JS exposes 23 different modules. And I want to show quick demo how to install Qava JS and use it. Okay, let me open my Visual Studio. Okay, so first you need to start working with Qava JS is just to have installed Node.js. Better to use Node.js higher than 16. And so first that we need to do is just to init empty npm project. Let's do that. Okay. And then install npm install Qava JS CLI module. It's module responsible for work with actually Qava JS test. It gives possibility to scaffold new project or run test cases. Install QECD. So all Qava JS projects start with Qava JS prefix, so, and then name of module. In this case, it's Qava JS CLI. It's installing. Yeah. And then we need to start Qava JS installer, npx Qava JS, and command install. Qava JS will ask you a couple of questions that you need to answer to initiate your project. For example, first it's module system. It's CommonJS, ES module, or TypeScript. Let's select TypeScript and select a couple of modules that needed for our project. In my case, let be playwright and, for example, memory. And I will install template. And let's select some reporters. And Qava JS installer will install all necessary modules, as you can see. For TypeScript, it works on using TS node, so you don't need to compile your TypeScript code. It will work with your TS files. Let's wait a second until it installs. It installs, and Qava.js generates me the command that I need to run our test cases. So, but first, let's take a look onto structure of project. So, as you can see, Qava.js installer creates a couple of folders. First one is the features. Actually, it's our test memory. It's a storage of our constants that loaded before test and can be used in test. Page object. So, reports folder, it's still empty. Step definition, it's a folder where your custom step definition will be stored, and templates. It's actually a folder for templates. And it generates config with all necessary information. So I just add headless false to see how it executes. And for UI project, it generates some dummy scenario to show how it works. So let's run it and see how it works. Run this command. This command actually can be added to package.json under, for example, test script to short it. Let's run it. It starts browser, Chromium browser, and it passes. So as you can see, as I selected console reporter, all the step definition will be print to console and with some statistic. Also, it generate corresponding XUnit report, one test case passed, and HTML report. Let me show how it looks like. Not in the right window. Yeah, as you can see, it's branded HTML report for Qava JS project. So here's a list of test cases executed and statuses of steps. Okay, let's close it. So, and next I want to show how to work with memory. I want to replace this inline validation with memory validation. Let's cut it and create a new memory value, call it ER, for example. And what we need to do to use this ER, we just need to create such ER constant and put necessary value here. So now Qava.js automatically reads this file and creates memory values for each property in this class. So let's rerun this test case. And it's still passing. And also I want to show how templates work. I'm going to actually encapsulate these three lines into one template. Let's call it I open get started. So let's navigate to templates, create new file, called it templates.feature. It's simple feature file, use the same syntax. So we need to start with feature, call it, for example, templates. And to create template, we need to create scenario with corresponding name or corresponding template. If we want to pass some params here, I open get started and let's cut these 3 lines here. And rerun this test case. And it's still working. As you can see, this replaced it with 1 step. I open get started. So Qava JS replaced it in on the fly with necessary step definitions, necessary Qava JS steps, and provide the result. Okay, and let me back to my presentation. So basically, it concludes my presentation. So if you have any question, you can reach me, Kirill or Dina, and I'm happy to answer question if you have any in chat.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Great demo. It looks really simple and powerful at the same time. So, unfortunately, we are out of time, and we will answer your questions on the platform. So, in the chat, we posted links to our social media and communities. So don't forget to check them, and stay tuned. And see you on the next talk. Bye.
Yeah, thank you all. Goodbye.